Okay, we are live. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Another night of the Best Boys 2025 Stanley Cup Playoff Wrap Up Show. Late night in the playoffs tonight, only a couple of games that we'll talk about. Next couple of nights only, really. Well, no, there'll be four games tomorrow, but there was just two games tonight. The Battle of Florida earlier tonight, and then just about ready to be done about a minute left. Dallas at home, all over Colorado. We'll get to that one in just a minute. I want to take a moment to tell you you can find all of our nightly recaps of the Stanley Cup playoffs on our YouTube channel, Best Boy Center Ice Podcast YouTube channel, which is available on the Refocus Radio Network. And also on the Refocus Radio Network is the I Am Refocus Radio podcast with Shemaya Reed and Sweep the League with Rudy Campos Jr. Rudy's been just as busy as we have been between the NFL draft and the NBA playoffs. You can go over there and check out some other great programming on the Refocused Radio Network. Okay, Carson. Late night
Yep.
tonight, as I
Yep.
mentioned,
Two games. Two
two
games.
games. We'll start with the Battle of Florida in a game. I really was thinking at the beginning of the game, I thought that the Tampa Bay were going to walk into South Florida and win this game. And it was a game of quick goals, two different times. After Florida got the 1-0 lead in the second period, then Tampa Bay got a goal from Chafee, and then literally, like I think 10 seconds, 11 seconds later, uh, Chernak got a goal. So it was like 10. There's been a lot of quick goals.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the one in Dallas where it was the quickest playoff goal to start a game in Dallas Stars history.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so now all of a sudden, in the second period, end of the second period, Tampa Bay has a 2-1 lead on Florida in Florida, and then Florida did to Tampa Bay what Tampa Bay did to Florida. Aaron Ekblad scored at 16-13, and then literally like 9 seconds
It's
later, Seth Jones gets his first of the playoffs, and all of a sudden it's 3-2 Florida, and then an empty netter by Carter Verhaeghe wins it for Florida. So um, now Florida has a 3-1 lead in this series. Did you think? I didn't think. I honestly didn't think that Florida were going to be
no,
out to a 3-1 lead in this
no.
series.
I did. I didn't. And I mean, this was a crazy game in itself. A lot happened. There was a 5 minute major penalty that Florida took in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there was a questionable no call too on Aaron Ekblad in this game, where a high elbow on Brandon Hagel that got him out of the game. Uh, it was funny, or not funny, but pretty neat. After that second goal, that Tampa scored right away, they panned the camera right to John Cooper, and you see him going nuts on the
Yeah,
bench like he's
I
fired up.
saw that. Yeah,
I think it's been a war between the coaches on these because there's been a lot of questionable hits in this series, like kind of borderline dirty, cheap shot hits that shouldn't be happening that they don't call. And even the 5 minute major they did, I don't really think it was a 5 minute major, but they called it that. And Tampa, you know, stat line that's not good for them. They're 1 for 15 on the power play in this series, which is not good. Yeah, I didn't think, and that's not to undermine Florida, but I mean they've been in the Stanley Cup final twice in a row. You feel like they'd get exhausted at some point, and they're
right.
not. They're playing really well. I mean, there's still a long ways to go. The fourth game's the hardest one, but they're. I mean, that's going to be tough for Tampa Bay to beat them 3 games in a row now
No,
with
the
how
one
it's
thing,
gone.
the one thing for Tampa, they're going home to play Game Five, so that's could be home ice advantage, but maybe it's not going to mean anything to Florida. But yeah, I think Tampa Bay is in trouble here because I don't see them against Florida coming back winning 3 games in a row.
Yeah, it'll be hard. It'll be
It'd be,
tough for them to do
it'd
that.
be, it'd be. I think Florida learned their lesson last year with the Oilers in the finals, being up 3-0. So I think Florida. Well, you know
But
what
they
Florida
still
is.
remember though. Florida still won that
Yeah,
series.
they still won the series, but I don't think they want to go through that again. Where if they're up 3-1 now. They want to kind of, you always want to wrap it up, but like you always say, the fourth game is the hardest one to win. But that's Florida beating Tampa Bay 4-2. Florida has a 3-1 lead going into Game 5 in Tampa Bay, and then it's now gone final in Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche, and they were playing in Game 5, and the Stars, who hadn't looked that great the last game, came out rolling in this one and won it 6-2. And thanks to 3 early goals, well, 2 in the first period, by Wyatt Johnson and Thomas Harley. And then Mikko Rantanen got his first goal against his first goal of the playoffs against his former team.
That Harley goal was something else though. That one, do you see that? Went right off of Blackwood's blocker and literally went over his head, and like one of those shouldn't happen goals. And then that you mentioned earlier, the fastest goal in playoffs history for the Stars to start a game. Wyatt Johnson scored 9 seconds into the game. Again, not another bad goal for the Avs to give up because it was behind the goal line. He was right on the goal line, and he just got it, like banked it off of him and went in. And yeah, they rolled. I mean, Dallas kind of let Colorado back in the second, and they came back from 3-0 to bring it to 3-2, and then the Avs took a cross-checking penalty, and Dallas scored on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think Johnston scored that goal, and then they scored later on. Marchman got a tip, and later in the second, it was 5-2. So Avs down 3 again, and then go to the third, and Avs had a power play, didn't score, and then the Stars scored the empty netter, and that's it. I mean, I didn't think that Dallas was going to win this game. I thought the Avalanche were going to with how well they played last game, but the Stars weathered the storm, and Ottinger was a better goalie, and that's the biggest difference in the playoffs is the goaltending. Who's going to be better? And you look at series wide, for the most part, Ottinger's been better, and that's the key. I mean, even last game he didn't do awful. We got pulled after the third one, but this is not a good game for the Avalanche. They got to head back home, and now they just got to win again, like they did, to take it back. Otherwise, Dallas for the second straight year can win Game 6 in Colorado and knock them out again.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of work to be done for Colorado. But again, they get home ice. It's harder to play up in Denver because of the altitude. Yeah, if Dallas can play like they did tonight, of course, and just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. Sometimes that a 3-2 lead in a series, when you get to that third game, it's sometimes you can kind of lay off the pedal a little bit. You get to that third win, and you
Well,
lay
Dallas
off the
did that
pedal.
in Game 4.
Yep.
They did. They let off, and then Colorado way outplayed them. And I imagine the message is going to be, let's just go in there and win the game and be done. But yeah, I mean, light night tonight for the the Stanley Cup playoffs. Pretty interesting. They only had 2 games, but I think tomorrow we're back to 4 again. Tomorrow, I imagine. I think tomorrow is Washington, Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto.
Actually, no, it's tomorrow.
Or is it New Jersey, Carolina tomorrow?
Yeah, it's Ottawa and in Toronto at 6:00 our time. The Leafs leading 3-1 in Toronto. The Hurricanes could also wrap up their series with the Devils at home. That's a 6:30 our time start. And then an 8:30 our time start in Las Vegas. The Golden Knights and the Wild tied at 2. And then the late game is the Oilers in LA against the Kings at 9:00 our time. And that series, of course, thanks to the overtime win the other night, is tied at 2. So, all right, let's go through the games tomorrow. Ottawa in Toronto. Does Ottawa have enough to win in Toronto after the emotional win in Ottawa the other night?
I mean, it's not to sound like a jerk, but it's the Leafs. I mean, anything's possible with the Leafs that they could blow it. Ottawa's got to play hard, though. I mean, they got to play hard from the jump, but I could see it. I could see him taking it back to Ottawa. I mean, the Leafs had their chance last game, that double liner penalty, and they didn't score. And that could be a momentum shifter, but the Sens just got to play free. I mean, they've got no pressure on them to win. They're not expected to win. Go in there and take the game, and all of a sudden you go back home and tie it up. So, I mean, I'd like to see Ottawa force it, but part of me feels like as well Toronto's just going to try to change their stigma and get it done and be done with the series.
Yeah, because they've got a bad case of blowing the first round.
Well, they ought the Toronto Maple Leafs, believe it or not, I'm not sure if you even knew this, have never ever made it past 2 rounds in the playoffs ever. Because
No.
even when they won all their Stanley Cups, the playoff rounds were only 2 rounds back
Yeah.
then. They
Yeah.
were never more than two. So the Leafs have never played more than 2 rounds of playoff hockey, which is
Yeah.
crazy. I
Yeah.
think every team in this bracket has made it past the second round besides the Leafs. I think the Leafs are the only team that hasn't done that.
Yeah, and it's just the circumstances of them play. Last time they won the Stanley Cup was it was only
1835 practically.
it was only 6 teams at the time. So yeah, you're not going to have it's going to be 2 rounds and that's it. Like basically a semifinal round and a final round. But yeah, you know what? And like even in the 70s and the 80s, the Leafs had good teams,
Which is
but they were
never enough
that
to.
stigma of not being able
Well,
to
and
go
I
to the
really don't think
playoffs.
that they'll stick. I don't really, because I mean, back then even at least won over a dozen cups, but that stigma I don't think really started till the 2000s, and then they just over time began to choke, 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 and especially now that they've gotten all these big stars, now they continue to choke, choke,
Yep.
choke, choke every season, and it's like enough. Like when is it gonna? It's either gonna stop or those guys are just gonna disappear.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be an interesting game. I'm not again like I've been the whole series. Not really looking forward to the Carolina New Jersey game.
No.
I think the Canes are going to win that and be done. The Devils are just so depleted, and they had their chance to get back in the series. They didn't, and the Canes pretty much have that. I don't really feel like that's worth noting because it's pretty much done. I mean, even if Anderson doesn't play, rest him for precaution out of after the injury. If he doesn't, they're still going to be okay. I mean, they had Kochetkov come in last game, and he did pretty well against the Devils.
Right.
I don't see that really going anywhere. The Vegas Minnesota game is going to be neat. I feel like even though they just played Saturday, I feel like they haven't played a game in like 5 days.
Yeah, it's been
It's
a
going to be
while.
interesting to watch them. That game, I'm hoping the Wild pull it out and can win the series at home. But again, that's going to be goaltending. Who's going to have the better
Yeah.
goaltending? Because both teams had the firepower this series, but uh, the Wild got to be more tight defensively, not let Vegas run roughshod. And same thing for Vegas. They got to not let the Wild run roughshod over them because they've been able to do it for the most part and score a lot, which isn't helping Vegas get back in it. But I think the Wild, in my opinion, I think the Wild take that one.
Yeah.
That'll it'll be close. I mean, another close game. Then the big one of the night that you're probably looking forward to,
Oh
LA
yeah.
Edmonton. I mean, Edmonton crawls back in the series last night with the overtime win. Um, this game's going to be determined from the start. If the Oilers don't start well, I think they're going to be cooked in this game because the Kings are going to be going back home PO'd after what happened last
Hmm.
night, and they're going to be coming out like they have all series being the stronger team at the start of the game. And depending what they do, they could score a lot in the first period because they're going to have a lot of energy.
Hmm.
And the Oilers got to decide whether they want to start like they ended last night or just lay off the gas like they have been at the beginning. That's going to be the key to the
Yeah.
game because at some point, enough's enough with coming back being down all the time. That's not going to work at some point. I mean, the Kings learned their lesson. They're not going to be taking any chances with the puck anymore. They're going to be getting it out anytime they can. So it's going to be harder, but that'll be a good game. Just up to which which Oilers team because we know which Kings team's going to show up. I think, but
Yeah.
it's just which Oilers team's going to
No,
show up.
you're right. The Oilers have to come out of the gate rolling because you can't play from behind and you can't be playing catch up hockey the whole series. It's going to wear on you. They have okay, the one of the stats out there is I think the Oilers have outscored the Kings in the third period like 13-5 or something like that. Something like that, 11-5 or something like that. But they've been outscored and outplayed in the first 40 minutes of every game of this series for the most part. But you can't just keep saving it for the third period because the Kings should have known by now after 4 games to tighten things up and not play back on their heels in the third period like they did the last couple of games in Edmonton. They have to go at the Oilers if they want to seriously take this team out and move on and get that stigma of losing to the Oilers every year. Now the Oilers go in. Nobody's won a road game yet in this series, so the Oilers have got to go out. You've got. I think you still split up 29 and 97. I think that works better. And then if you need that combination of putting them two
Then you
together
can.
with Perry or with Hyman or whatever, I think if they're going to do that, putting Perry on that line is a better mix because he'll really get mucked in front. He can really muck in front of the
Yeah.
net. So you save that for when you need it. But I think you get you start them on separate lines. You start the lines that you had in the last couple of games. I think you still start Calvin Pickard. Pickard has earned his spot. It's sorry Stu Skinner, but Pick has earned his spot. Maybe he's given up a couple of soft goals in his two games, but he's been there and made
Yeah.
big saves when he needed to.
Yeah.
And so
He he stepped in, and I mean, we know Kemper's going to start for LA. I just, with this game, I just have a feeling it's honestly for the Oilers. I have a feeling it's either going to be really good or really bad. I don't
yeah,
think there's going to be an in between. It's either going to be they're going to come out firing and take the game over, or they're going to get killed like they did um, earlier on the series, like Game 2, where they
mhm,
just got slaughtered and it wasn't close. And this is the best LA team they've had to play.
yep,
So they can't. I mean, they can't afford to make a mistake. Um, you know, I still, the difference in this series so far, in my opinion, uh, is that LA has had their moments of weakness where they've played bad for a short period of time, or they made a simple mistake, and whereas Edmonton has had the longevity of having longer terms where they're not playing as well,
mhm,
which is weird to think of it that way because of the power they have on that team.
yeah,
But it's going to be who's going to be able to clean up their mess more. Is LA going to be better at minimizing the small mistakes that they've made that led to problems? Or is Edmonton going to be able to minimize their longer term struggles during the periods at the beginning of the game where they can't get anything going? And you mentioned it in our show all season how bad of a first period team they are.
yep. They are a
They're an
terrible
awful
first
first,
period team.
which you don't, again, I mean, I know it's the saying is it doesn't matter how you start, it's how you finish, but you don't need to be down 4 or 5 nothing after the first period because
No,
good luck coming back after that. Um, and Darcy Kemper, that's gonna be the decisive tomorrow is who's gonna be better between him and Pickard and Kemper, because Kemper again, like we said, kept the Kings in it for as long as they were, and Pickard when he needed to make the saves he did. So who's gonna be better of the two? But um,
well, you said it in the other series. It's your who's the hotter goaltender, and
yeah,
so that's going to come down to that. And
yeah.
right
This
now,
has
when
been a
you
high scoring series, probably the highest scoring series out of
yeah,
them all. I
so
imagine.
you look at and Pickard and then Stu Skinner in the first couple of games. Darcy Kemper has been the better goaltender all around, but he's just had some flurries of what the Oilers just are bombarding you with
Yeah, and he's
however
not getting
many.
help from his team.
No,
He's doing it all himself. I mean, he saved basically in some of these series is a game's worth of shots in that overtime
yeah,
in one period,
yeah,
and it wasn't even done. I mean, the period still had 2 minutes left. You never know how many more
yeah,
shots could have been. So I'm excited for that game. I think all of these tomorrow are going to be really good.
yeah,
I personally, again, like I said, I think New Jersey closes it out. I think Ottawa is going to hold on somehow and make it back home. Uh, I think that the Wild take it tomorrow against Vegas, and then just thinking logically how this game's going to probably go tomorrow, I feel like I've just realized I spelled series wrong on the LA Edmonton thing. Darn it! But I I have I have to go logic, and I just think this uh, Edmonton team is playing too hot to not win. I think they're going to come into LA and beat them and go back home. And I mean, you never know. That's the beauty of the game is you never know. But I just think they've got a fire under their butt that they could have been down 3-1. They were 25 seconds away from being down
yeah,
3-1
down 3-1.
last night. And
Yeah, well,
that's something I think even then that's overlooked is that they could have easily been down 3-1. Byfield clears that puck.
yeah,
I think if he clears that puck, they're down 3-1.
Yeah, I
and
think
that's a
you're right.
completely different
And that's
ballgame.
just a moment, a speck in a game. That
I think Bouchard just made up his whole crappy season with that one keep in
yeah,
right
he
there.
did. So I'm going to go with you the same thing. I think the Senators will pull this one off in Toronto. It's going to be close. I just think Carolina is just going to take care of New Jersey. It's going to be a runaway. It ain't going to be close. Minnesota and the Golden Knights, I think would go. I think that one's going to go to overtime, but I think the Wild can pull this one out. And I
What
just think
about the Edmonton LA game? What about like a quadruple overtime?
no, let's not do that. I had a hop. I
Yeah.
had enough
You
time
know
with
what I need to say? You know
overtime.
what I need to say? We need to say today is that this game's going to go to overtime tomorrow between those two because and it won't. Because the other day I said it
Yeah,
wasn't going
right.
to, and then it did,
Yeah,
and
and
it
it
was a
did.
jinx.
And I just think if the Oilers can play a full 60 minutes and just keep firing on Darcy Kemper, firing pucks at him, I think the Oilers are going to take this one in LA. Again, no road team has won yet, so why not now? That's what I'm thinking. So we'll be on again. It's going to be a late one.
Midnight.
The game starts at 9 o'clock. The Oilers game starts at 9 o'clock, so it'll be between 11:30 and midnight, and depending on if it's going to go to
No,
overtime or not.
no, it's not.
And we'll be on the air here on Facebook Live with our wrap up show right after that game has ended. So yeah, so everything we just got 4 games tomorrow for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's go through as you can see on the screen. Out east, Carolina can wrap things up with a win tomorrow night against New Jersey, 3-1. Toronto could wrap things up with a win over Ottawa. They're up 3-1. Washington leads Montreal 3-1, and thanks to tonight, Florida leads Tampa Bay 3-1. Out west, Winnipeg and St. Louis are tied at 2. Dallas takes a 3-2 series lead after tonight's win over Colorado. Minnesota and Vegas are tied at 2, and the Kings and the Oilers also tied at 2 out in the Western Conference. All right, well, that'll wrap things up for the 2025 Stanley Cup Playoffs wrap-up show with the best boys. We'll be back tomorrow night.
Yep.
At like I said, it's going to be a late one. It's going to be between 11:30 and midnight.
Yep.
We'll be on and we'll give you the wrap up of all the games from tomorrow night.
We'll
but in the meantime and in between time, everybody have a great hockey night.
Boo.
Yay.
Bye.
All right. Bye, son.